consistency is so important. I'm a big fan of consistency. I know that it helps to build recognition, trust, confidence and professionalism. But did you know that 90% of consumers actually expect that their experience will be with a brand will be consistent across all channels and devices, with 60% of millennials expecting a consistent experience from brands both online, in-store and over the phone. You can't ignore consistency with figures like that. If your audience are expecting it, then you need to do something about it, as first impressions are over so quickly and you don't want to lose a customer because you're failing to communicate effectively from the outset. According to CrowdSpring, customers expect this consistency to be a seamless transition between web and device-native applications through colour, flow and overall quality, and this can easily be achieved with effective branding. When you take the time to work on your brand identity, you are making consistency a priority, and you're also making life easy for yourself going forward. You won't need to make any decisions later, as you'll have made them all in advance. So all you need to do is to apply these decisions to every design that you create. So here's a brief rundown of ways you can do that. Firstly, we're going to look at colour. When people buy, 93% of that decision is based on visual appearance over other senses such as smell or touch. Colour is obviously highly visual and has a huge effect on judgments within the first 90 seconds. So choosing the colours for your brand is an important task. Colours have meanings and contribute subconsciously to a person's impression of your business, and colour improves comprehension by a whopping 73%. So my tips with colour are to pick 3 to 5 colours, take notes of all the different colour codes that you can get. You can use this website called Kulos for this, or there's the Canva's colour palette generator. They're really good. So you can use those to help you find your colours, tweak those colours and get all of the different colour codes. Write them all down in a safe place and then stick to them. These are your colours, like Cadbury is purple, Coca-Cola is red, IKEA is blue and yellow. You can have increased brand recognition by sticking to the same colour palette all the time. The next thing to tackle is typefaces. The typefaces you choose to use to represent your business are important as well. So consider just how many fonts there are available. There are so many. Who knows how many there are? And all the different styles. There's no denying that there's a huge difference between something like Comic Sans and something like Baskerville. These both provide different impressions and offer different uses. Which is most appropriate for you? You have to find that out. So many typefaces are available as part of a font family where you have the options of bold, italic, black, light, condensed and so on, which is really useful for working with as you have more options. So that's a good way to, it would be best to try and find a font family and buy the font family to have all those options available to you. So you can consider these different weights as well as things like spacing, size, using capitals, lowercase, which colours you are going to use each typeface in, or which maybe you're going to think about which colours you're going to use when you do a heading and which colours you can use for body copy as well. So it's sort of interchangeable between colours and typefaces. And think about what uses you've got for your typeface. Do you want a typeface which is curly or one that is sans serif, which if you don't know is the ones that don't have the flicky bits on the end of the letters? Or do you want one which is serif, which is with those flicky bits on the end of the letters? And then there's a lot of options. There's just this really great post from Nick Calenda which shows you how to decipher the personality of a font, and it's really worth a read to help you think about the typefaces you can use in your business. So I've linked to that in the blog post. And so my tips for typefaces are to consider your brand values and use these to help you to choose typefaces. But do this alongside considering things like purpose, legibility and impact, because they're really important as well. If your brand needs to be all curly and swirly, then you still probably don't want to make your body copy curly and swirly because people won't be able to read it. You don't want to spend hours scrolling through websites window shopping, because you could be there for days, weeks. So set yourself a time frame and some guidelines on the style that you want to go for and go from there. And if you decide on the sort of typefaces you need before you start, then that makes life easier. If you feel dazzled by all of the options, because there are so many, then I would either stick with the typefaces you already have, or stick with the typefaces inside Canva if you're going to be using that to design your stuff, or try something like Wordmark to narrow down the options. I mean, it is obviously better to have a typeface that somebody else doesn't have, or less people have, because that makes you stand out a bit more. But if it's too tricky, I would just stick to simplicity and make life easy for yourself. And then the next thing to talk about is flow. So implementing your brand across all the applications means creating a seamless transition which comes through being consistent. So colour and typefaces are a huge part of that, but there are other things to consider as well. So do you have one logo or do you have 4, because you can't decide which one you want to use? or you haven't really spent some time thinking about it. You need to get that sorted out, and that can be as simple as deciding which typeface to use for that one purpose and then tweaking it, making more decisions so that it looks fantastic. Or of course hiring a logo designer would result in the most effective outcome. And then you need to make some decisions about positioning. Will you place your logo in the bottom right or centered at the top? You've chosen some colours. Are you going to always design on white background, or will you use one or some of these colours as a background colour too? What style of imagery are you going to use? How are you going to lay out your design so that you can do it in the same way each time? Will you pop headlines in a coloured box over an image or place them above that? Will you be creating other elements such as icons or illustrations to help you have a consistent look and feel in that way? So my tips for this are to list all of the touch points that you can think of where you will need to create some visual branding. There are some at the bottom of the infographic that I've linked to at the top of the blog post. And if you think about the journey that your customer goes on before, during and after working with you, you'll be able to create a really good list. So consider how each place will look when a person arrives there. So how will you make sure that when they go from your website to Twitter that they know that they're in the right place? How can you create graphics for each social platform, your vehicle graphics and your brochure, that are consistent in look and feel, even if they aren't exactly the same image? Do some sketches before you switch your computer on to help you really get clear on this, because that really, really helps. And then create a style guide. A style guide is the most useful document you can have to help you be consistent with your brand identity. All this means is that all the decisions that you've made, that we've talked about so far, are written down in one place, somewhere that you can refer to again and again, something that you can share with others if you need someone else to create a design for you. This could be handwritten, it could be typed up and made into a really nice guide with a contents page and lots of examples in it, or it could be a one-page document just stating, the colours and the typefaces that you're going to use. Make it really easy. It could be in Evernote or in the notes function on your phone, as long as it's accessible and usable and you keep it up to date if you add anything new or take anything away, because the whole point is to actually use it. So if having a really lovely brochure that is beautiful, the kind of thing that I would create when I create a brand identity for somebody, then if that's going to be something that you're going to stick on the shelf, then that's no good to you. You need to make sure you've got that information in a place where you're going to access it whenever you need to create something, so that you actually use what you've got. And so my tips for this are to take a look at some examples of guidelines by other people. So I've included a list of 20 from HubSpot to give you some inspiration and help you think about the ways that you can apply consistency to your business. Remember your values as well. The whole point of having a brand identity is to help you communicate who you are and what you're about better with the right people. Detail is really good. So the more specific you can be, the more consistent you can be, but also consider how easy it's going to be to recreate your ideas each time, because if it's too complex, then it's easier to stop doing it. So keep things simple for yourself. Don't just consider print and online, also think about how you can bring your brand identity into your shop or your office, and how you can weave your values into other forms of communication such as email and speaking on the phone. So now you've done all that, you are armed with your brand style guide, and you can meet your audience's expectations by being consistent everywhere and anywhere that they might come across you, because you put in the work and made it happen. So you'll be more memorable because of that. So what resources have you found that have really helped you with creating a brand identity for yourself? If you have come across something really, really useful, then please do pop it in the comments. And if you like this video, please subscribe and share it with other people who might like it too.